Well, good morning. I am Daphne Jackson. I'm one of the founders of WICERS, and we are ready to officially welcome you to WICERS 2019. We are extra excited this year. This is our 5th year. Can you guys believe that? 5 years. So I want to do something fun for a quick second. If you are attending WICERS for the very first time, I want you to stand up, because we are glad you are finally here. Welcome. If you are attending WICERS and you've been here 2 or more times, stand up for me. Woo! And if you have been here for each and every one of the 5 WICERS, you are superwomen. We want to make you, oh, there's my song, Superwomen. So we want you all to know, whether you're here for the first time or the 5th time, how much we sincerely appreciate you, how much we hope that the next day and a half is as fun for you as it has been for us to plan it. So we're going to get going now. It is my pleasure to introduce and bring to the stage the first gentleman of the city of Atlanta, Mr. Derek Bottoms. He's coming up. I'm going to say Derek is a husband, a son, the father of 4, and an outstanding lawyer at the Home Depot Company. So, Mr. Bottoms.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good morning. I've known Daphne more years than I'd like to admit, but I'll start by saying I knew Daphne when I didn't have a driver's license, and I got my driver's license at 16 on my birthday, so it's been a number of years.
That's right.
And I thought I was late this morning, but I was rushing through traffic, and as Daphne mentioned, I have 4 kids. And my oldest turned 17 Sunday, so I think he's probably not a kid, but he acts like it. So my youngest son is a twin, Lennox, and he has asthma. So he got up this morning and Lennox was coughing. It's a legitimate cough, so he ran, the guy's loading inhaler and put it on him. My 17-year-old son comes down and sees Lennox coughing and sees the inhaler, and you can see it in his eyes, like, oh, wait, this might be an opportunity. So then he starts to cough, and he's like, oh, I got a fever. So he's like, okay, what the hell? So my 11-year-old comes down, and the way he's coming down the steps, he sees these 2 on the sofa. He's like, oh, wait, hey, ho. So he sees the 2 coughing and realizes, okay, coughing ain't gonna do it for me. So he takes his shirt off. Oh, I got a fever. I think I'm hot. I got a fever. And then from there, my youngest child is my daughter, Lincoln, and she's an 8-year-old twin. So she walks in and sees the other 3 in various states of illness, and she can't quite figure out what her illness is going to be. So she just starts crying, like, I was like, what's wrong? I don't know why I'm sick. I just can't. So all of them are trying not to go to school. So anyway, I thought I was going to be late, but I appreciate the fact that I'm not. So I just wanted to bring that story in. The 4 kids seemed like the thing to do at the time, but upon reflection, maybe 2 would have been the better answer, I don't know. But it's my pleasure to bring you greetings on behalf of the city of Atlanta. We really appreciate that WICERS has taken the opportunity to have the 5th year here in the city. And I'm really here for 2 reasons, 3, I guess, really. 1, if I didn't come, Jan would have beat me down, so that's the first reason.
Yes. Yes.
The second reason is that I am the husband of the 60th mayor of the city of Atlanta, and I thank you, honorary co-host, and I'm happy to support her in our city in any endeavor that we think is important to the city, and WICERS is very important to the city. The second reason, though, is that I'm happy to support WICERS in this mission, and that's to provide an environment of enrichment and support for women in non-traditional career spaces. As the husband of a woman who is in a non-traditional career space, I can tell you and attest that it's so important to have groups like this where you can come and be supported. As a father of an 8-year-old Lincoln, I hope that WICERS does its job so well that when Lincoln is ready to decide on a career, a specified support group like this is not necessary because it's just a part of our fabric and the way we do business and the way that we live our lives. I commend WICERS and the team for bringing this convention back to Atlanta for the fifth, I didn't realize it was fifth consecutive year, but the fifth consecutive year, and Atlanta is happy and proud to have you here. Atlanta is a city where dreams are not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. Atlanta is a city where you can come and be whoever you are, and people are here to support you, as is evidenced by this room. We're happy to have you here. We're happy to support you here and look forward to hosting you for the years that are upcoming. And thank you for bringing so many like-minded people to this city and this convention whose goal is to, 1, support women, and 2, support dreams. On a lighter note, I noticed that for the second year, I got to come to the morning session, and for the second year, my wife gets to come to lunch, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. I'm gonna work through that. But in all seriousness, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having us, and if there's anything that we can do from a Home Depot or from the city to support this group, we are more than happy to do it. It's a very noble group, it's a very noble mission, and we're very happy to support you all. So thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Let's give it up for our first gentleman, Derek Bottoms. As all of you know in this room, it is not always easy to be the spouse of a strong woman. And I will tell you, because I have known Derek Bottoms since high school, he is an amazing man, but he is one of the most supportive and encouraging people. I can remember you and I sat at Houston's restaurant on West Paces Ferry 15 years ago now, talking about somebody running for mayor one day. And he saw something then, well before I think our current mayor saw it, and he was getting ready. And so I just want to commend you, Derek, on being not only a great husband, but an amazing father, because you got your hands full over there with those 4. So thank you again for joining us. So WICERS wants to always make sure that we take care of the whole person, right? So we spend a lot of time talking about our careers, where we want to get to, our paths, our mentors, our goals. But we can't do any of that without being healthy and without making sure that we take care of our body and our soul. And so it's my pleasure to bring up a new WICERS friend this morning, Dr. Demetria Pernell. If you would come up and join us. She goes by Dee Dee, so.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is definitely an honor and a pleasure to be here. I'm so grateful for the invite here today by Miss Jan Bryson. I am Demetria Pernell. I wear many hats. Some of you may know me as Dr. D or the plant-based princess or the ice cream lady. I do a lot. But I came to talk to you about health. About 8 years ago, I was probably close to 300 pounds. I had high blood pressure, I was type 2 diabetic, and I was a chef, and I got high on my own supply. But I found myself at a point where I was being rushed to the hospital, probably every six weeks or so, from some underlying unidentified condition. And the condition basically was that I was eating the wrong things. I was not sleeping enough. I was not taking care of my temple. Doctors told me I needed to lose weight. They put me on medicine. I lost the weight, but I was still type 2 diabetic, and I still had high blood pressure. My cousin introduced me to a doctor here named Dr. Michael Imani of the Nile Wellness Center, who helped me take that path of losing weight. I lost the weight. Everything was still there, and he said, well, Dee, if you want to change your health results and health outcomes, you definitely got to change your lifestyle. He said, consider for me just one day going plant-based for 30 days. Just consider this today. And I promise you, I don't make promises, but I promise you your conditions, if not reverse, will improve. My ego said, I'll do you better. I'll go 90 days. So I go on this mission, and I really did not believe that anything was going to change, but I figured, heck, it's a great challenge, if nothing else. Went plant-based, and my blood pressure was typically 162/93. That was the typical reading when I would go into the doctor's office. I went back 3 months later, and it was 110/68. My A1C, which was 6.3 at the time, had gone all the way down to 4.2, which means I was at no longer diabetic, but I had zero risk for even developing type 2 diabetes. And the doctor asked, "What'd you do?" I said, "I simply changed what I ate." And so I come to talk to you all today as professionals and women, some mothers. We wear a lot of hats. We do a lot of things. We're stressed out. We don't rest enough. We don't eat the right things. And health basically comes down to a few simple things. It's eating the right things. It's making sure we get enough rest. Does anyone know what the optimal number of hours that we should be getting per night? So 10 hours is actually too many. So why is sleep important? God bless you if you can get 10 hours. So lack of sleep causes a few things, right? When we don't get enough sleep, we are at higher risk for heart attack, we're at higher risk for stroke, and we're at higher risk for cancer, developing cancer. When we get past 6 hours of sleep, our body begins to do what's called a restorative process. So all of your organs, the things that when you're asleep, they're working to help restore your health. Your liver is helping cleanse the blood. Your kidneys are doing the same. That's why every morning when you wake up, you usually have to eliminate. And typically your bowel will have to eliminate as well if you're eating the right things, right? We should have a bowel movement upon waking. 7 hours is how many hours of sleep we should get. By show of hands, how many people get 7 hours of sleep per night? That's amazing. So for those of you who are getting 7 hours or more, we don't want to get to 10 because the problem with too much sleep is it causes the same problem, and it can also lead to depression and other things that we just do not want. And so we live in a world where women, especially, we're in high demand. We have diversity and inclusion programs that allow us to go into workforces and take on these high-powered jobs. But along with that, we typically are mothers and wives. So we wear lots of hats, which creates a lot of stress. Well, stress causes constipation, along with a poor diet. And where we live in a society where we eat what we want and supplement what we need, we are setting ourselves up for failure. So kudos to you if you take a multivitamin. But I'd like for you to consider getting your vitamins and minerals and fiber from food. That is the absolute best way to take care of your body. The center that I work at is called the Nile Wellness Center. And what we do there is detoxification. We help people transition from omnivore, which is meat eaters, to plant-based eaters. We do weight loss. We do a number of programs. And our main focus is the prevention and reversal of diet-related and lifestyle-related diseases, such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, etc. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because 80% of the population, especially women, are constipated. What does constipation mean? It means that you should be eliminating, every time you eat, you should eliminate. If you aren't, you're suffering from some form of constipation, okay? So how do we, and the problem with that is, if you've ever heard this before, your gut, which controls how often you go to the restroom, is your second brain. So if things are wrong here, if we're eating all the wrong foods, lots of processed things, lots of red meat, lots of dairy products, lots of white starches, that's gonna mess everything up here. It all translates. So you really are what you eat. You think what you eat, etc. So the thing that I encourage you, I don't say that you should all go plant-based as I chose to do, because everyone's different, and I believe you should have a choice. But the one thing I do ask you to consider is at least one day per week to consider going plant-based. The CDC has shown, studies have shown that people who have taken on a plant-based diet just once a week reduce their risk of heart disease by 70%, up to 70%. Recently there was I'm getting some feedback, so I'm gonna step back. Recently there was a study that was done by the CDC that said 100% of African-American women specifically will be obese by the year 2030. and morbidly obese. All of us will be about 100 pounds or more overweight. A lot of us have these lifestyle diseases, such as heart disease, such as high blood pressure, such as type 2 diabetes, and I hear it all the time. Dr. Pernell, it's hereditary. The only thing hereditary about a condition as such is you learned how to eat from your parents, they learned how to eat from their parents, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm here today to say that it's time to break the cycle. My father, my aunts, my uncles, my grandmother, I've had at least 10 people die in my family, my immediate family, from something that was completely reversible and preventable. And I say it stops today. It should stop today. It stopped with me. We are, as women, we have the ability to influence the people within our family to do more, to do better. We typically make the buying decisions when it comes to groceries, right? And some of the things out nowadays, I know when I first went vegan, it was very difficult to bring something home and have everyone eat it. People usually griped and complained, I don't want to eat that, I don't like this, I don't like that. But I will say that there are so many things out there on the market today that helps this process become easier that I encourage all of you to try it out. Sleep. Sleep is one thing that eludes me. As I said, I wear many hats. I found myself probably in the throes of last year in the middle of a nervous breakdown because I had this cape on. I'm wearing a cape today. I had this cape on and I was trying to be superwoman. I thought I had to do it all. I thought I needed to do it all. Who else was gonna do it? Well, guess what? When my health failed, the company began to fail. And it brought me back to a center that said, I have to make a decision today about what's more important, how people see me, how people view my success and the success of my company or my health. And I decided to choose my health. So I'll leave you with a few things. One, eat the right things. What does that mean? Make sure you're getting 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day. A very easy way to do that is to have a smoothie in the morning. They have lots of great things out there for breakfast this morning that helps us get that fiber in. The foods that are highest in fiber are nuts, grains, seeds, berries, pears, and green apples, okay? So those are things that you should be including in your diet every single day. Some of the things that cause constipation and cause things to kind of go awry: red meat, white starches, and any kind of dairy product. Cheese is the worst thing. It is the thing that we're probably most addicted to, but it's the thing that causes the most amount of constipation amongst women. And so when you have all of these things sitting in your colon and they don't move, guess what it is? It's waste. When waste sits in your body for more than an 8-hour period, it begins to putrefy and it begins to toxify the body. So we'll typically see things like skin outbreaks, fatigue, brain fog, short-term memory loss. These are all of the effects of being toxic. So I would encourage you today, if you're not doing the right things in eating, you can definitely contact us at the Nile Wellness Center. We'll be more than happy to help you. You can come in for a simple cleanse. That's a great way to start. If you're looking to lose weight, the only way you can do it is to remove the toxins. So your fat cells live off of toxins. As long as toxins are present, fat cells are present. If you never get rid of the toxins, you might go on a weight loss plan and you'll get to 10 pounds and get stuck. No one understands why they plateaus, but it's typically because they're toxic. So I just want to encourage you to eat the right things, get plenty of sleep, meditate, and always put yourself first. Thank you for having me today. Woo! Does anyone have any questions before I leave? Sometimes people have questions. May I answer any questions before I leave? I can take one or two. Yes, ma'am.
So, Dr. B, can you just tell us what would a typical day on a plant-based diet look?
A typical day on a plant-based diet would basically be, for me, in the morning, I'll start with a smoothie. I'll have bananas and some nuts. Later on for a snack, I may have like a raw brownie or a Lara bar, maybe a chickpea tuna salad as a snack. For lunch, I'll have maybe go to Slutty Vegan and get a burger. No, I'm kidding. I'll have something like a burger or a salad or some chili with some rice and cornbread. For snacks, kale chips, another smoothie. And then for dinner, I'll typically kind of go a little ham. I might run over to Panko and grab some steamed brown rice and veggies, etc. So.
Hey, Dr. D, if you could stick around for us.
Sure.
We're gonna keep moving, but I'm a pepperoni pizza, so we are what we eat. I'm a pepperoni pizza. So I need to talk to you, so please stay here.
I will.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Very quickly, I want to introduce my WICERS team to you all. We are really a WICERS family, and we're going to do this real quick, and then we're going to have a quick video, and then I'm going to bring up our special guest for the day. Bryson, one of our co-founders. And ladies, if you come up here, Miss Heather Fatzinger, Thea Washington Smith, Glenda Meakin, I don't know if Glenda's here or not, Miss Tammy Gray, Adrienne Brown, Natalie Knight, Diamond Lewis, Marlene Coleman, and our one very handsome male, Mr. Joe Matwire. And I'm gonna also bring up two ladies that, honestly, without them, none of us would kind of get what we, get anything done. And that's Miss Tracy Frisbee, who was out with the flu last week, and she's here, and Miss Linda Bridges. This is one of the hardest working group of people in this city, and it is my pleasure each and every day to get to call them my WICERS family. Let's go. Huh? And where's my girl, Dee Dee Brown? This does not happen without Dee Dee Brown. I am fortunate that Dee Dee Brown is one of my longtime personal friends. And she comes in every year from New York City and LA and wherever she's working to kind of wrangle us up. So Dee Dee, thank you so much for always having WICERS in your heart. Let's check out our video.
From its inaugural year to today, WICERS has grown into a movement set to empower women in their professional journeys to define success.
Atlanta is such a great market to do business in. We are very fortunate here to have such a rich history, and so we thought it made sense to bring a conference like this to a city that really is about opportunity.
In just 5 years, WICERS has birthed a network to propel women acting upon their entrepreneurial dreams.
People come here to get motivated to just take that leap, and that's what WICERS is all about.
I came back the next day and I was telling the organizers, I was like, oh, Miss Jan, guess what? I registered my business. I started my business.
WICERS has sparked a movement of support, networking, and sisterhood for women striving for excellence in careers in all industries, including those typically dominated by males.
It allows other women to be a part of this industry, which for a long time, it was just saying that, this is a male industry, we only can do like office work in this industry. But now we are in the field, we are laborers, we are owners. So pretty much what the men have been doing, women can do as well.
This annual conference cultivates aspirations of women just like Selene Parker, who has paved her own path in the construction industry and is known as the Concrete Lady.
Being in an environment like this, I'm among sisters who understand where I'm coming from. I can share with them the growing pains, dealing with general contractors, dealing with prime contractors, just the everyday issue dealing with employees. So I love events like this, and I hope that we continue to grow and thrive.
That's what this conference is all about, leveling the playing field by providing resources, access to critical information and potential clients, and inspiration best provided by those who too know what it means to shatter the glass ceiling.
When I speak about, betting on you, part of that is knowing your own worth and what you bring to your business and what you bring to the business community.
This is the 5th annual WICERS Conference, 5 years and trending, where the time is now to get all the tools, tips, and connections you need to secure your place in history.
And it is about opportunities in the city of Atlanta, and each of us having the opportunity to have a seat at the table and to be a part of something bigger than ourselves.
I want to salute Ms. Diamond Lewis, who does all of our video production. Because you can only do so much, and we do great work, but the ability to capture it and to be able to see it on the screen is really special. So thank you so much, Diamond. So very quickly, a couple of things. People ask me all the time, what does WICERS do when we're not doing the conference? This year has been busy for us. We are extremely proud to announce that we are now a 501c3 organization. Thank you, Jan Bryson, for shepherding that. And we spent a lot of time talking about what makes WICERS WICERS, and what makes it special and what makes it unique. And so what I want to challenge each of you to do in the next day and a half, and really do it as you're sitting here this morning, think about what you want out of this experience, okay? What do you want to take away from WICERS 2019? So for me, it's about being intentional, and our mayor spoke about it a little bit last night. And I think we have to become much more intentional about our relationships, about our health, about our business, about our lives, our families. And so I'm going to do something, and my team is going to laugh. I'm going to give my phone number out today, because every year people come here, and I get all these business cards, and I tell people I will call them or I'll email them, and I don't do it, because I get busy doing my real job on Thursday, as soon as this is over. And so what I want to say today is I will give my phone number out. If you want to have coffee with me, you want to just talk to me or whatever, reach out, but I need you to text me. Do not call me, because I will not answer. I'm just going to be very frank. And that's something we have to learn. We have to learn how people want to be communicated with, okay? Because we all get upset when we say, well, she didn't call me back. I don't really call anybody back. So my phone number, 404-379-3226. 404, you can put it up there. 404-379-3226. When you text me, put #WICERS, so I will know where I met you. And I will promise you, I will commit in front of this room, in front of my team, that I will text you back, okay? All right. So let's be intentional, but figure out what it is you want out of this next day and a half. And for me, it was that. And secondly, I just want to have a good time. So without further ado, that brings me to our Raging Cajun that we are thrilled to bring back to the WICERS stage. When you reach 5 years, you have the ability to look back and see what you've done really well, and the times and the people that brought something really special to this process and to this conference. And Jan Hargrave, you are without question one of those people. So it is my pleasure to introduce you all, or reintroduce you to Ms. Jan Hargrave.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Daphne. Thank you so much. Wasn't that a great introduction?
Walking down the street, pretty woman.
And we love that song. I could dance if I knew how to dance up here. I am thrilled to be here, and thank you, Daphne, for that wonderful introduction. And when I think back of when we came here 5 years ago, and it was just, the organization was starting and they were getting it off their feet, I am so proud to be a part of it, proud to know a lot of the ladies who are in here. I think the video is wonderful, by the way. It touched my heart, too. I will bring you some information today that I think that reinforces some of the things that Daphne says. And One is to be aware, and one is perhaps the most important, is something to do with our communication. And so I am Jan, and I'm a body language expert. So what I usually do is that I study how a person moves his hands and his arms and his eyes and his shoulders, even his feet, and then I interpret that and I tell you what's going on inside of his mind. I am involved in jury selection, so there's a really serious side to what I do. And I specialize in how to tell when someone's telling the truth versus how to tell when someone's telling a lie. So maybe while I'm with you today, I can teach you how to spot when someone's not being honest with you. Better yet, I could teach you how to lie to someone and they won't even know that you're lying to them. So I could probably teach you just enough to get you in some kind of trouble, but I want you to think about this vast knowledge that we already have about nonverbal. And I know that the moment that you see someone, I bet that you decide for yourself, do I like that person? Do I trust that person? Do I even want to have a conversation with them? I know that you make judgments of people. We all do the moment that we see them, but they also judge us. I want to give you some percentages so that you can understand how important this thing called nonverbal is. It is said in our research that 55% of a person's communication is nonverbal, 55%. So that is why when you first see someone, you say, do I trust them? Do I like them? Do they look intelligent even to me? That is 55% of our communication. 38% of a person's communication simply comes from our voice inflection. When your voice goes up and lets people know how excited you are about a certain event, that is a big, big part of your communication too. And then it is said in our research that only 7% of a person's actual face-to-face communication does come from the words that they say. I know that you've heard the old saying, actions speak louder than words. We say an awful lot about ourselves. I mean, even if I watch each one of you right now seated there, even if you are not moving, you are still sending me some kind of a message. Whether it's that your head is tilted a bit, that gives me a message. I see a young lady sitting like this. That gives me a message. Everything you do with each of your limbs indicates things that are going on inside of your mind that sometimes you don't even want other people to know what's going on inside of your mind, but if you know enough about body language, you can almost figure something out about another person. I will get you into this relatively gently, okay? Many days I sit in the courtroom and then I watch people do this. They raise their right hand and then they say, I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I have gotten to where I watch the way people lift their hand and I can tell you if they're going to tell us the truth or not. So just as an experiment on this Tuesday morning, could you raise your right hand and just pretend that you are in the courtroom? Show me how you would be if you were in the courtroom. And just sit up there and you're kind of sitting relaxed. You are not relaxed in the courtroom, so show me how you would be actually sitting. You're like this, okay? And so it has to be the right hand. Make sure it's the right hand. And the key thing is this, I need you to freeze your hand because I will tell you a few things that I see. Some of you may not like sitting by some of the people you're sitting by when I tell you this. And some of you may not like hearing some of the things that you hear, but you must keep your hand frozen so that you can understand how you were feeling when I asked you to get out of your comfort zone. In the courtroom, we look for 5 things. Some of you are exactly this way. Notice how wide apart my fingers are and look how rigid my hand is. I will tell you what this says about your personality. Some of you have your hand up and your fingers are really tight together, so I'm going to tell you what that says about you. I see some of you slightly bend your fingers forward, so I'll tell you what that even says about you. I see a few people with 2 fingers together and 2 fingers apart. I am worried about you. And some people even lean the hand backwards. And so I'll tell you what each one says. Let me start off with the very first one. This is the first one, but notice how rigid the hand is and look how wide apart the fingers are. When someone is in the courtroom and their hand is this way, this indicates that they are terrified and they will tell us the whole truth. So if ever you need to go, go just this way. Second one is equally as good. My hand was up and it was straight, but my fingers were tight. You remember this was the second one? This is a good one. It is labeled an analytical honesty. This person will tell us the truth, but look, we will have to pull it out of them. In the third one, my fingers were bent forward. Do you know that anytime someone bends the fingers forward in the courtroom, it lets us know that this person will try to lie to us. So you may want to check on your neighbors right now. In the fourth one, In the fourth one, I had 2 fingers together and 2 fingers apart. But think about what I initially said. Anytime fingers are wide apart and the hand is straight up, this is always going to be a readily type of honesty. But then if the fingers are tight together, it's an analytical honesty. So this person usually gives us both types of responses. And then lastly, I bent my hand backwards this way. When someone bends the hand backwards in the courtroom, it says that they will try to bend over backwards to get us to believe them, but will be typically telling us a lie. Now you can put your hand down. Thank you. You know what's gonna be the best thing, though? The best thing about everything I teach you today is this. Everything I teach you, you can use immediately in your own personal lives. So this evening, when you return home and you see your spouse, you can always say, now, honey, what have you been doing since I have been gone? And as your spouse or friend tells you what they're doing, just say, can you finish telling me that, and put your right hand up? And look to see if it's like this or is it this way. I have been doing this a number of years. Now I think it's almost 18, 19 years, but I originally taught this in college. That's how I ended up getting into the field. I did my graduate research in the field of nonverbal and then developed classes for attorneys. Originally, we were just teaching attorneys how to pick better juries, and so we were teaching them the signs of honesty and the signs of dishonesty, the signs of confidence, the signs of nervousness. But eventually, industry realized, wow, all of this information that you teach in the courtroom, that is so valuable to us in the business world. Because dishonesty gestures in the courtroom are still going to be dishonesty gestures in the business world, confidence gestures. So from there, I ended up writing all these curriculums, and now most of the time I'm traveling and I speak and teach people about this thing called nonverbal. And I do work for the news because I do a lot of politicians' body language, and I'm sure that you've seen a lot of the debates, and I work for ABC News and NBC News and CBS and then also for Fox. And maybe sometimes as you're watching someone debate someone else on television, you may say to yourself, excuse me, I hear what they are saying, but what is their body really saying? That is exactly what my job is. It's simply to take every time they move a hand or every time they move an arm or an eye or a shoulder, I just analyze all of these motions and tell you what's really going on behind that person's mind. And I think one thing you might find interesting about learning the science of body language is this. Look, a body does not know how to tell a lie. It is a mouth that tells a lie. You'll find out while we're together this morning that people actually move their hands a certain way when they're uncomfortable with what they're saying and probably lying to you. And then people move their hands another way when they're 100% honest and comfortable with what they're telling you. So to get you into this so that you're comfortable with it, let me do this. I'll give you 5 or 6 gestures that are very common. And as I give you the gesture, just tell me if you think it is true, you think it is false, and I'll do this for number 1. Let's say that you're in a meeting with a man, and this man is listening to you. And then as the guy listens, he just starts doing something of this sort. So what I'm gonna ask for question number 1 is this. When someone is listening to you and they're doing this gesture here, it is a gesture that says that they are completely concerned and interested in what you are saying. Would you think that that is true? Would you think that that is false? What do you think? We'll not give the answers just yet. I'll give you 5 questions on your exam. Let me give you a really easy one for number 2, and all of you will get this one correct. It goes this way. Men who constantly jingle the change in their pockets. When a man will constantly jingle the change in his pockets, it is a gesture that says that he is quite concerned about his financial situation. Do you think that that is true? Do you think that that is false? What would you think? Okay, I'll keep that one in too. Let me try this for number 3. And 3 is a bit frightening, but I want to see how you think and feel about it. It goes this way. People who tend to use their left hand a lot tend to lie a lot. Would you think that that is true? Would you think that that one is false? What do you think? Probably most everyone who said false is left-handed. Am I correct here? Where are my nice left-handed friends? Where are those? Look how sweet. And they're lifting their left hand, so that's kind of interesting. I will repeat number 3. And so notice when I first said it, I did not say people who are left-handed. I simply asked and said people who tend to use the left hand a lot tend to lie a lot. I will keep that one in there because I think it's quite valuable that you understand that. I want to throw this one into you for number 4. And 4 is just meant to be fun. I watched people at, we had an evening event last night, and people don't too much know what I do, so that's an interesting thing for me. I can watch couples in an event and see what's really going on. So I noticed this gesture last night for number 4, and you tell me what you think about it. If you are watching a man and a lady in a casual conversation, and while this man and woman are speaking, the man would begin to pull up his socks. For question number 4, I'm just gonna say this. When a man begins to pull up his socks during a casual conversation with a lady, it usually says that he would like to ask that lady out on a date. Do you think that that's true? Do you think that that's false? What do you think? So we have some true, some false. I'm gonna keep that one in there. You may need that one. It's a Tuesday night in Atlanta, Georgia. You may need that gesture. Let me try this last one with you for number 5. And I think once you see number 5 and I explain it, then the whole concept of people reading will begin to make sense, because think about it, this is what I'm gonna help you with today is what I find. I'm gonna help you to understand what does your body language send out message-wise the moment that someone sees you, and then I wanna help you understand what are the underlying messages you can gather while you're watching someone else have a conversation with you. So watch how number 5 goes. Let's say that you're talking, and I want you to just watch my hands for a bit, because I know that when you're speaking, I know that sometimes you're talking and I bet your hands kind of go away from your body. Probably sometimes you're speaking and maybe your hands come back towards your body. Probably some of us have even said, if I could not use my hands, I could not even speak. I want to clarify that before I even ask question number 5. It is perfectly okay to use your hands when you're speaking, because watch what happens psychologically. Whenever you move your right hand, or for that matter, anything that you move on the right side of your body, your hand, your arm, your eye, your leg, your shoulder, any motion on this side of your body, that will always be controlled from the left side of our head. Now, our left brain, that's the analytical side, it is the factual side, it is the numerical side. Our timetables are located here. If you are multiplying something inside your head and you have trouble getting the numbers multiplied, you would end up moving your right hand. It would help clarify where you're thinking, and then finally you could speak those words. When you move your left hand or anything that's on this side of your body, of course, any motion on this side of your body, that's going to be controlled from this side of our head. And our right brain, this side is the fun side, and this is the comical side, and this is the side that daydreams. If ever you drove somewhere and you cannot recall how you got there, of course you drove their right brain. But I want to help you understand. Think of why your hands move when you're speaking. Your hands move to help you get information that is located right here inside this huge thing called a brain or called a computer outside your mouth. If you had to speak to someone for 30 minutes and were not allowed to use your hands, let's say you had to talk and your arms and hands had to remain behind you the entire time, it would become rather difficult to organize your thoughts and get them out in a logical fashion. It actually is. It's the motion of your hands that help you organize thoughts so that hopefully when we speak with people, we logically will make sense. So watch a number 5 would go, let's say that you're talking. Oh, and you're noticing your hands go out, maybe you notice they come back towards you. And every now and then you see yourself do this. You would just maybe sit back and put the tips of your fingers together at chest level. Maybe say something else, your hands come apart and they come forward, and then you're noticing that you're doing this. This is my question for number 5. When someone does this, this is a gesture that says that this person lacks confidence. Would you think that that would be true? Would you think that that would be false? In other words, you see people on television maybe sit back and do this, and when they are doing it, do you feel that they look confident or do you feel that they look nervous? Tell me gut-wise, how do you feel when you see someone do this gesture? How do you feel? Confident, nervousness? What do you think? I will answer number 5, and then I'll come back and catch 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'll let this be the very first gesture I teach you today. This gesture in body language, look, it's called exactly what it looks like. It's called a steeple. And do you know that steepling is one of the largest gestures of confidence that I could ever teach a group of people? Anytime you're going to see this kind of formation, it's always going to be associated with the level of confidence that that person is feeling. And I don't have to see a steeple gesture done with all the fingertips together. Look, I could watch someone just put the pointer fingers together and drop the hand, but there is still going to be a visible steeple. I could watch someone put the thumbs together and drop the hand. There's still going to be a visible steeple. Some of you right now are seated just this way. Anytime you're going to see this kind of formation, look, this is called a goalpost steeple. Anytime you're going to see someone speaking and the gestures are up here and it looks like a steeple, it's always going to be associated with the level of confidence that that person is feeling. And this is what our research in body language even further tells us. When someone is confident with what they are saying, their steeple gesture is at chest level. When someone is confident with what they are hearing, their steeple gesture is typically down in lap level. Isn't this a pretty good gesture to know, though? Let's say you have to do a talk in front of a group and you're a bit nervous and you don't want them to think you're nervous. Just go like this. Don't say like this the whole time. It looks like you're praying, but every now and then just do it. And I never want you to force a gesture, because someone will know if you force it. They'll be able to tell. It has to be really soft, it has to be really easy, and it has to be something that's comfortable for you. And as it goes on, you're gonna, even if you put your fingers this way and your hands are down here, it is a much stronger and more powerful gesture than this. I got into the elevator this morning and I was looking at the people's body language around me. People say, Jan, do you ever turn it off? And I tell them yes, but I guess I don't. So I watched a guy, and look, he was standing like this. So this is kind of an insecurity stance. It's like called the fig leaf position. It would have been wiser if he did this, but he probably did not know that much about body language as I read this man the whole time. Now, I'm going to teach you how to really understand, because that's just one gesture. I'll probably give you 50, 60 gestures by the time this is over. And if you'd like, I can send you a handout with all of this in summary form. Would you like that? Because I see some of you are writing. We'll send it to you. We'll send it to you virtually, that you have all of this with you. So I want to show you how to understand, though, every single gesture that I give you today, because you'll see this and you remember, oh, Jan said that stands for confidence. But when you are first starting to study body language, it's difficult at first to figure out, is that person confident with what I am saying, or are they confident with what they are thinking? So let me show you how to truly analyze each gesture that goes on, and I'll ask my good friend Dee Dee. Is it Dee Dee? Dee Dee, you were doing this, like a steeple. Just do a steeple with your fingers or something. And so let's pretend that Dee Dee and I are speaking. And I'm trying to figure out if she's taking in some of the things that I'm saying. So I looked down at her hands and I noticed that she is steepling. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I guess she feels pretty good with what I proposed. Maybe she will go along with what I've just suggested to her. The wisest thing you need to understand when you're trying to analyze a gesture is that you have to try to quickly recall what types of gestures preceded the one that you're trying to analyze. And let me help you understand that so that it's not difficult for us. Think of it this way. When we form a sentence is made up of word after word after word after word. Am I correct? Just let me see some body language. Just go, yeah, Jan, you got that right. So look, when you see this gesture, or any gesture, it won't just come by itself. Evidently, some motions have come before it, and some are definitely going to come after it. So I am noticing that Dee Dee does this. And I'm thinking, now, what did she do before she did this gesture? And I recall that she gave me several positive gestures prior to steepling. Maybe while we were talking the whole time, she gave me continuous good eye contact. That's a given in body language. Maybe her body started to lean forward, so that would show interest in body language. And then maybe Dee Dee sat back and would have done a steeple gesture. In this series of 3, it would let me know that she feels very confident with what I'm saying and probably will go along with what I have just proposed. Now watch the exact opposite of that. Later on, Dee Dee and I are talking, and I notice that she does a second steeple. And now I'm thinking, what did she do before she did this second steeple? Because we were not talking about something that was that pleasant. And I recall this time she gave me several negative gestures prior to steepling. Perhaps as we chatted, I noticed that she kept looking at her watch and letting me see her look at her watch. Just 2 people talking, that's giving you a message right there. Then after she's looked at her watch, I noticed that Dee Dee sat this way, and I could no longer see her hands. The most negative and the most defensive of all arm crossing is when hands and fingers are not showing. In a room of this size, it does not matter how your arms are crossed, but I want you to always remember, in a room of less than 7 people, it matters how your arms are crossed. When you cannot see hands and fingers, it's too negative, it's too defensive. It's as though you have a shield in front of yourself protecting you from receiving someone else's information. I'll teach you the right way to cross arms in a bit, because it's okay to cross your arms, but I'm going to teach you the right way. But I want to get back to Dee Dee's example. So she has looked at her watch. She has severely crossed her arms. And then she happened to sit back and would have done a steeple gesture. in this series of 3 would let me know that she feels highly confident in telling me no and will not go along with what I have just proposed. So as I teach this across the world, this is what I tell audiences. It is almost as though you learn another language. You know, we speak English and we speak French and we speak Spanish and we speak German. Why not, and think of all the languages we may have in here, but why not learn this thing called body language? And what I'm going to give you today, I'll give you American body language. I live in Houston and I still teach at the University of Houston. Of course, we teach classes in every different cultural nonverbal communication too, because every nationality does have certain formations that they do with their hands that maybe are different, or all the cultures too, but I'm going to give you American body language so that in your next conversations, you would have someone else figured out before they figure you out. Won't that be cool? I will teach you this, but do not get a divorce over what I will tell you, okay? I'll teach you how to spot liars. Don't you want to know how to spot a liar? I'll teach you how to do that in confidence and nervousness. I'll give you as much of it as I can. And oftentimes when I'm speaking and I see that there's nice men in the audience, I know sometimes in a man's mind or someone else's mind, they might say, I would hate to be married to this woman. I would hate to be married to me because I know that I drive my husband crazy. I know just any kind of motion he does with his hands, I'm like, okay, I think I just know what he's thinking. So I'm gonna tell you how I got into this because Dee Dee even had asked, but let me just tell you, and then I'm gonna teach you all of this basic information. I am originally from Louisiana, so I'm a little bit off the wall, wild child. You know what that state is like. And I went to college at UL, University of Louisiana Lafayette. We're called the Ragin' Cajuns. I got my degrees from there, and then I ended up teaching at that university for several years, and then moved to Houston and taught at the University of Houston for 8 years. But the way that I got so interested in body language, I was sitting in a graduate psychology class and had a really fun professor, but every few days he would walk up to someone and say, oh, I know what you're thinking. A couple of days later, walk out and look at someone else and said, oops, I know what's on your mind today. Maybe one day he came in, looked in the back room, and might say, well, I know what you're thinking about. He kept doing that to us. And one day he looked at me and he said, Jan, I know what you are thinking. And I thought to myself, how can that old fool know what I'm thinking? Because it always wasn't too pretty. So he told us about body language, and I said, you mean I can study how a person moves his hands and arms and eyes and shoulders and feet and almost figure that person out? He said, oh, yeah, you can do it. And I was dating someone at the time. So I just happened to say to my college professor, I said, so when this man tells me he loves me, I can figure out if he's telling the truth. And I said, oh, yeah, you can do it. I said, I need to learn this stuff. Because I thought, what an advantage I would have all my life. I could figure out if my boyfriends were telling me the truth or not. So at first, when I started to study it, I just wanted to use it on all my friends. And I think some of you can recall from college experience, something that may have started off fun can become eventually major research for you. My thesis for my second degree is in body language, and my dissertation, my third degree, is also in nonverbal. I am very similar to those of you who majored in business because my major was business and my minor was psychology. So during the day at college, I've always taught business, business law, economics, but at every university, they come to us as professors and say, why don't you develop a class for us in the night school based on something you're doing extensive research on? So not knowing, you never say no, you just said, okay. I developed this class and these attorneys started taking this class. And when I think back to it, that was 25 maybe years ago. And at that time it was just criminal justice who were interested, criminal justice majors or pre-law majors who were interested in body language. But nowadays, I don't think it matters what we do for a living. All of us have to be interested in how to communicate better with others. So as I said, I would take them in and teach them basics of honesty and dishonesty and confidence and nervousness. I also do handwriting analysis. Do you know that that is a huge part of your body language? We can pick an entire jury just based on a person's handwriting. That's how much your handwriting says about you. Another thing that we do, I don't want you to ever not want to go to jury. I better not tell you all of this, but when you get into the jury box, we do a thing called facial analysis on you, where we look at the shape of your face and the fullness of your lips, the arches in your eyebrows. It is primarily the texture of your skin that lets us know how lenient you are in the courtroom. I also do doodle analysis, so do not doodle while you're with me. I'll stop by and see if someone needs some therapy after class. But I would teach this all semester. And then at the end of the semester, I thought, what kind of final exam could I house to make sure that these students had learned? And I thought, well, I'm going to just house a To Tell the Truth game panel show on the last night of my class every semester. And I think you might know the old show called To Tell the Truth, and then it kind of has come back with Anthony Anderson. So what I would do on the last night of class every semester, I would bring 3 new individuals into my classroom. But out of the 3, 2 were imposters and 1 was of a true profession. The very first semester I taught it, I brought out a nun on the last evening of class. I had gone to a Catholic school. We had lots of nuns. Then in Louisiana, I had a friend who was a nun. So I said, please come to my class on this certain night. But I said, you cannot wear your nun's habit. I said, just wear a regular suit. Then I had to find myself 2 other ladies who looked a little nunly also. So as each lady came in, I would just say, well, who are you? And the first would say, well, I am Sister Mary Teresa. And second would say, no, 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 I am Sister Mary Teresa. Third would say, you know what? I am the real Sister Mary Teresa. Then my class could ask them questions. How many beads are there on a rosary? Or does the priest really drink the wine? I cannot recall what they asked him, but think what was happening. While they were asking these 3 ladies questions, of course, my class was watching their body language. And I had taught them enough about honesty and dishonesty that they could look at the 3 ladies and tell which 2 were lying, which 1 was telling the truth. That's how I originally got into this. Never think becomes such a science as it is now, but it's difficult to pick 12 jurors who think like your attorney thinks unless you have someone who does what I do. And all I do really is study your behavior and then report on that. So now you kind of understand me. Let me take my hands and kind of work my way down the body. I'm going to teach you as though I'm teaching one of my college classes, if that makes sense to you. I always start off by teaching about insides of palms. In body language, insides of palms always represent some kind of acceptance that you're feeling for another. If I went to hug you, look, I would go like this, and you would see both of the insides of my palms. I noticed when some of you entered the room, some of you shook hands with others like this. You would give them your hand and your palm was facing upward. That is a great gesture. When your hand is upward, it almost says, I like you, I accept you. Lesson number 1, insides of palms mean acceptance. Is this Joe? Joe, can you come up here for just a minute? I think that's Joe, right? Let me show you how Joe shakes hands. Come on, Joe. He has a good handshake, though he has about a 9.6 on a 10-point scale. Let me just show you. I'll demonstrate with him and then explain to you how you can really get the upper hand oftentimes when you're shaking hands with someone. So, Joe, hope you don't mind. Okay, I'll have you here, Joe. And I'll just show you what's going on. So let's pretend we first met, and I'd say, hey, it's Jan. How you doing? Hi, Jan. Oh, look at him with the double hand clasp. Are you running for office or something? So let me show you what happens and how you can really read someone's handshake for a minute, and I'll let you put this hand down for a bit. Because think what happens when I touch Joe's hand. I have 2 insides of palms that touch. Now, insides of palms mean acceptance. So the more that palms touch, well, the more acceptance is felt between the 2 people. But some people understand body language and use it to their advantage, even sometimes where they're insincere. And sometimes a politician may come this. And you know, when they're doing this, they're thinking, the more I can get my palm on you, the better this will be for both of us. Or they may hold you here and say, oh, Joe, it's good to see you. I have watched people, they'll even try to palm you up and down, Joe. Insides of palms mean acceptance. The 2 things I want you to notice right away when someone comes to shake your hand, what is the position of the handshake and how much do they point their pointer finger at you? Now notice Joe's hand is straight up and down and he kind of points his pointer finger towards me. Some people will do it this extreme. He just does it a tad. Some people don't do it at all. When someone points a pointer finger at you in a handshake, it will always describe that they want to try to control you in the conversation, so you could just nonchalantly push that finger down. He's not that way, I'm certain. So look, this is one position, and I'm going to explain it to you, but this is also one position, because I am certain that you have people come to shake your hand and their palm is facing downward. So I'm going to tell you what's going on in that person's mind when they do this. This is kind of uncomfortable, but some people actually turn your hand around, and I'll explain that. Some people act as though they like you, but they never let you get near them. Let's each take a tiny step backwards. Look, some people are like this. It's called strong-arming you. Stay over there, Joe. This is a kind of insecurity kind of handshake. Some people want to get real close and maybe touch you here, so I'll explain that. And then in business, you know that we still get even this kind of handshake. So I'll go through all of those with you. So I'll start off with this very first, and he's still pointing his finger at me. Okay. So let's pretend that someone came to you this way. And one thing I want to click in your brain about this information about body language, I just want you to put in your brain that everything that I teach you is very logical, because you already know, look, you know this, if someone comes to you and their hand is facing the ground, you know that they want to control you. If their hand is facing downward, they're non-verbally saying, whatever we decide, I'm going to have the final say-so. If a hand is pointed towards you upward, this is always more submissiveness. So this would be me saying, whatever you decide is perfectly okay with me. But when I teach classes in sales skills and negotiating skills, and I want you to be aware of this, if ever someone were to come to you this way and their hand is facing downward, and you would like a 50-50 chance in that discussion, I would immediately turn the hand like this. They won't even realize what just happened, but they will quickly realize that you're as prepared as they are for this conversation. Absolute best kind of handshake is a straight up and down handshake. What gives you such a good score, the 9.6 handshake on the 10-point scale, is that when he touches my hand, he also touches web to web. Now, I do not want to get into your personal lives, but I just need to know, have you been touching each other's webs? Have you? Look, this is a web right here between our thumb and our pointer finger. So an ideal business handshake, it's got to come in this far, and then look, it allows Joe and I to have a really good, firm handshake. And I know you've had some training in this, or maybe your mom or your pop said to you, the kind of handshake we give is really indicative of our level of self-esteem. When it is firm, it just says, I feel good about me. In this day and age, to get someone to know that you're confident within yourself, and you all are confident with yourself, make sure that you give people good, firm handshakes. This is not a business handshake. It's just not. It could be okay for today, because today is more social, because this really comes from this. So if someone just catches my fingers, I'm like, do they want to kiss me, or what's the deal? You really have to come in and reach all the way this way. Just kind of, you know that, I think, though, already. It can never be weak, and it should never be that someone hurts you. There's no sense that someone hurts you in a handshake. Haven't you ever had that experience? I often find that people who do that, you know, when they kind of hurt you, that they themselves are lacking in self-esteem, and they think, well, if I hurt her when I shake her hand, she may feel that I'm more powerful than I am. Another part about shaking hands, and this is silly, but we do teach this at the college level, the correct number of pumps in a handshake is 3. And I know better, I get excited, I'll pump 10 times, but it's 3 times. Let's try a 3 pump. So I'd say, hey, Joe, how you doing? We go, you see, yeah, he's about a 5 pumper. Go ahead, Joe. It's okay. It doesn't matter how many times you pump, I just want to tell you what the textbooks say. And let me also show you this, because this is a wise thing, especially for ladies to understand, because some gestures are more okay for guys and some are more okay for ladies, but I want to show you one that both men and women can use. You see, I'm just holding on to Joe here. In body language, this is called anchoring. You see what I'm doing here? And let me explain why this is powerful. The only acceptable area that I can touch another who I don't know well yet is somewhere between the wrist and the elbow. You can always touch people here. If I would touch Joe here and he's not my friend yet, he may feel that I'm invading his personal space. Once someone's our friend, sure, we hug them, we kiss them, but let's say you have a really formal first meeting with someone and you want to make another connection with them, the wisest thing to do would be to hold on here, and I want to give you the definition of this thing called anchoring. If I hold on to you here during a handshake, it non-verbally sends a message that says, I am fully present in this conversation. What happens, it just stops you for a second. You give that person good eye contact and you validate that person as an individual. Because so many times, don't people shake your hand and then they kind of dismiss you? Haven't you had that little feeling in life? If you're holding on to them here, they will never comfortably let go of you till you're ready to be let go of. And another word of caution, the handshake, the proper way to do it is to completely square your shoulders to your partner's shoulders. Because it is said in body language, and this is silly, but you'll remember it the rest of your life, that you always point your belly button where your mind should go. My belly button's pointing at yours, and yours is pointing. You feel it now? I feel it too. Because if I'm shaking Joe's hand, and I'm like this, like, hey, Joe, you see, if I'd be this way, that would be very discourteous to him. I would need to be in front of you, letting you know that I want to have a conversation with you. I can see that you're perspiring now, and I like it. I like it. Give Joe a hand, please. Thank you, my darling. He did a good job. So think about what we learned, and then I'm going to get into deeper things, and I'll teach you how to spot when someone's lying. But look at my hands. See, my hands are facing downward. When you are speaking, not necessarily, when you're shaking hands, it's a sign of control, but let's say that you're talking in front of a group and you have a committee meeting and you want to kind of gain control of the room, downward facing palms while you're speaking is always going to give you an aura of control. Upward facing palms when you're speaking is always inviting someone else to come into the conversation. It's not that one is better than the other. You can use them as you see fit, but when you're talking about something you feel very serious about, it is okay to sometimes talk and your hands are kind of facing downward because you're telling them something that you feel strongly about. And then when you're ready for them to enter your conversation, it's just really easy to kind of bring your hands and bring them into what you're saying. And look, I make the gestures big when I'm on stage because I want to make sure that people in the back see them. You never have to make them that big. It can be as tiny as your hands in your lap, but just remember, downward facing palms will give you this aura of control, and upward facing palms are more accepting. Like this gesture, I make it big on stage. You never have to make it that big. I forgot to say that to you. It can be as tiny, maybe as your hands here, your hands are here. You want to try it with your hands? Let me see you do it. Can you just do this one? But you can't look like you're praying. It has to be really, really soft. So, and you can kind of point your fingers downward if you want. You can do these something across, but you will probably practice it by yourself in your room until you get it just right, because I don't want to see you walking around this whole conference like this. I want to teach you the right way to cross your arms. Remember I said this is too severe. You cannot cross this way in a room of less than 7 people. Too severe, too negative. The only acceptable arm crossing that we allow and teach in college negotiation classes is when hands and fingers are visible. This one is okay, but watch this. Even only one hand showing is okay. This is called a resting position or a coach's position. Because I never want to tell you not to cross. Don't you love to cross your arms? But if ever you need to cross, you make sure that at least one hand is showing. Because at least if one hand is showing, it's more as though you are in contemplation and trying to figure something out. This is more like I'm thinking about it, as opposed to this that says, I don't care what you're saying, I'm not even listening. But I imagine that you have meetings with individuals and they remain tightly crossed while you're speaking with them. If that individual remains this way and you want them to see your point of view, you have to get them to uncross, but it's easy to do it, and you do it by handing them something. Give them a document, offer them a cup of coffee, whatever it would take to get them to maybe receive something from you and uncross their arms. Because it's said in body language that the more open the upper part of a person's body is, the more receptive their mind is to taking in information. And another secret, you might want to remember this the rest of your life, you look a lot more confident when you are not crossed, because I want you to see what happens. When I cross my arms, my body crumbles. See my body crumbling right now? And every time your body is going to crumble, someone thinks you are at your weakest, and that's when they're going to come in and try to get their point of view. As much as you can, you put your little shoulders back, and you can kind of talk with people like this. I mean, to help me from not crossing all the time and getting so small, think of a high school senior girl nervously going down the hallway, clutching her textbooks to her chest. I mean, how insecure can that look to you? When we stay in this little tiny position, that is kind of the image that we're sending out to other people. And we study a thing called gender differences too, because men communicate one certain way and ladies communicate a certain way with their nonverbals. More so in the times, a man's gestures tend to go away from his body, and a lady's gestures primarily will come towards our bodies. So if I'm coaching a man, I say if you're in a meeting with just ladies, you can take on some of our gestures and the gestures come towards us. But for ladies, when I coach ladies, I say you can take on some of these powerful big gestures that men do if your audience is only men. So men, normally their gestures go away. Ladies, their gestures come towards us. And another way that you can show power in a meeting room while you're sitting there is this. It's to try to, and it's going to be hard to explain, but to try to expand your body language a bit, because let me show you what happens. Size of space you need around you can let another know how much power you feel you have. For example, if you saw 3 limousines coming down the freeway and one limousine is larger than the other 2, where do you naturally think the most important person is? Where? In the largest of the 3. Who gets the biggest office building and space in a building, probably the highest ranking officer. So we get into meeting rooms and we let other people know how powerful we think we are by the formation that we sit. For a man, it's really easy because a man can sit in a chair and he can put his arms on the chairs on the side of him for hours, and no one thinks ill of it, right? But look what he's portraying. He's saying, I need all this space because I'm the one in charge of this meeting room. We as women sometimes get into meeting rooms and we appear very non-confrontational. Look what we do. We cross our legs and then see how little we stay like this. And because we stay so little, sometimes people will feel that we're weak. So I'm sure you've watched Oprah interview someone. Oprah's never like this. Oprah even has an arm on a chair, and she's kind of talking with you this way. And she's simply doing that because she's giving the message that says, I'm the one in charge of this interview because I'm the one taking more space while we're having our conversation. So if you find that you're uncomfortable kind of spreading your arms out, you can do it with the books in front of you. You can even spread your books out a little bit further in front of you, giving the aura that you need a lot of space as you sit there. Like you see, this lady's very powerful. She's very powerful. She needed a whole row today. You see this lady here, this lady here. And even if you're sitting by someone who you don't like, you know that you can get someone to move away by simply invading their space with your objects. Like right now, if there's someone on the side of you don't like, just put your water a little bit more into their space and put this. And after a while, they start to feel uncomfortable and they will move. But I want you to keep that thought in your mind about how you sit in a meeting room and how it can make you appear powerful or not powerful. Just kind of put your shoulders back and, you can talk and then you can always come back to this effort here, but kind of make sure that your arms stay away from you. Also remember this, men do not mind having side-by-side conversations. Two men can sit side by side at an airport for 2 hours and never look at each other and have a really good conversation, correct? They're just talking about something. So men don't mind side by side, but ladies, we like a full face conversation. We want to see someone's face. We want to see if they're smiling. We want to see what kind of body language they're sending back to us. It had always been thought that women were better listeners than men, but women are not better listeners than men. It is simply that women give more nonverbals when they are listening. Women do this. Often when they're listening, a lady will turn, with her head up and down. A woman will maybe smile back at a speaker. Men more so stay in what's called a neutral position. They have no expression whatsoever. So if a lady has a meeting with a man, someone later on the day will say, how did the meeting go? She'll say, I don't know. I never got any nonverbals. So when I coach guys, I say, guys, it's okay. You can kind of do this with your head every now and then when we're talking. You can smile back at us. So I think men understand that, but we as women, we know we do this and we smile back. I want you to watch even head nods because when someone is in agreement, normally your head goes twice. You're like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And when you're ready for someone else to shut up, you know that you go 3 times. So I'm watching. When your head's going to go 3 times, I'll stop talking. Because you're normally like, uh-huh. Uh-huh, and then go like this. So just wanted to tell you that. And another little secret, you might want to remember this. It's said that on the average day, men speak 11,000 words, and on an average day, it is said that women speak 25,000 words. And I know the many here can say, I know that's right. But you know what happens is, oftentimes it's in the formation of our sentences, and I want you to remember and watch for it because men more so make declarative statements. A man will say, that's a nice car. A woman will make a declarative statement and often to the time put a tag ending. We might say, that's a nice car, isn't it? And because of all this, isn't it, and wasn't it, does it, all of that, we end up having these 25,000 words in a day. And another funny thing that we found was this, that the gender differences for men and women begin at 3 years old because at 3 years old, everything that comes out of a little girl's mouth is a word. 100%, it's just word, 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 word. But a little guy at 3 years old, 60% of the information that comes out of his mouth is a word, and the other 40%, those are those little sounds like, those sounds? And those sounds stay with men until they're 90 and 95 years old, don't they? Because I cannot say to my husband, do you like my dress, and just get a yes. He'll go, he just makes some sounds, and then he'll say the yes. Don't they kind of do that? Let's talk a little bit about honesty and dishonesty. And I'll give you a couple of gestures that we know in the courtroom that when we see these, we know that we're being lied to. And I'll be nice to you. I'll give you a couple of gestures of honesty too. I'll give you an honesty gesture that ladies do, and I'll give you an honesty gesture that men do. Won't that be fabulous? A male honesty gesture. I bet that you're pretty okay with spotting little lies. You can tell. How do you tell when your children lie? What do you look at? What do you look at when your children lie? How do you know? How do you know? Where they look down, some of them, their little voice, their eyes, And you're right about the eyes. Now, we look at eyes a little bit differently in the courtroom, but I'll teach you how to look at someone's eyes to see if they're being deceptive with you. We study your eye motions, and then after we study your eye motions, you're correct, we go to the voice inflection, because a voice is a certain thing when people lie, and a voice is a certain thing when people tell the truth. But the biggest indicators are hand motions. Actually, people move their hands a certain way every time they lie. And when you know that, it changes your life. You will not watch the news tonight the same way that you watched it last night, because I'll teach you how this is done. Let me talk about eyes, and then I'll talk about voices, and then I'll teach you the hand gesture. You are so correct about the eyes. Eyes are the windows to the soul, are they not? And our moms always said, you look at me when I'm talking with you. And so we know, look at us in here, we're what they call educated. I bet if someone were to describe you to your family, they would say, she's a very educated lady, because we know we have to look at other people when they're talking with us. It's a sign of courtesy, it's a sign of respect. Some people don't even know that, but I don't know if it's that they're not trained or they don't know how to show respect for someone else. It is said, though, in the research that when you're talking with a one-on-one conversation with someone, let's say, young lady, you and I would be speaking, 70% of the time that we're talking, my eyes need to be looking at your eyes. That much, 70% of the time. 30% of the time, I'll look away and I'll get another idea, then I'll come back and I'll talk with you here. It is about 70% that you really give them good focus, and then 30% that your eyes move. And it's okay for your little eyes to move, because think why your eyes are moving when you're speaking. Your eyes move because they're searching this big brain for your next sentence. If you need a sentence that's on this side of your head, look, you'll go and catch it, and then you can speak it. If you need a sentence on this side of your head, you'll go and catch it, and then you can speak it. You can never stare at someone the whole time you're speaking. They will think that you are crazy. Our prisoners do that, so you cannot do that. Let me give you the 3 motions that we notice, that when someone is nervous about their story and probably not telling us the truth, these are the 3 things that we look for to let us know that they're being deceptive. We, of course, never trust someone's story if their eyes would not meet ours. I don't think that you would either. We have a very hard time trusting someone's story if their eyes excessively blink when they tell us their story. And we never trust someone's story if their eyes remain closed for longer than necessary while they're talking with us. Ever had a conversation with someone and look, their eyes are closed the whole time, you're like, what is going on with that person? If the eyes stay closed for too long, it means that they're blocking information about themselves from you. So eyes that never meet yours, eyes that excessively blink unless they'd having trouble with contacts, but I think you could tell the difference. And then eyes that stay closed for longer than necessary when they're talking with you. And I want to just throw out these 2 words for you right now that in your whole study about body language is this. I want you to always remember baseline behavior. Baseline behavior. As I look at each one of you in here, I notice each one of you has a baseline behavior. Maybe some of you, when you listen, you twirl your hair. Some of you, when you listen, you play with your necklace. That is your baseline behavior. If I'm having a conversation with you and trying to decide if you have committed a crime, I would not talk with you about the crime at first. I would talk to you about you and your life, and I would get a read on you. And I'd say, oh, when she's comfortable, she kind of kicks her foot a bit. So then when I would ask you a difficult question about something that I thought was not true that you were telling me, I would look for deviations from your baseline to see what it is that when you're uncomfortable, what are some of the gestures that you do? Because I don't want you to ever think that just because someone blinks their eyes a lot, they're lying. That might be their baseline behavior. For example, I had done Roger Clemens' body language for Fox News when Roger was accused of taking some growth-enhancing drugs. Now, Roger is a constant lip licker, more than LL Cool J. He is a lip licker, but he does it so excessively that, I know that's kind of funny, huh? But he does it so much that sometimes that's all you look at is him licking his lips. And in the courtroom, we were trained that if someone licks the lips too much, their mouth is dry, they're probably nervous, and they're lying to us. But I could not come on national television and say, Roger Clemens is lying because he licks his lips so much. So I had to go back and look at all this other research, and I looked at videos of Roger from years and years and years. He has always constantly licked his lips, whether he bats or pitches. So for Roger, that is baseline behavior. I had to look for deviations of that to see in what areas he was being deceptive. All of this information about body language, you know where it really started and got so big into the courtroom and TV, was on O.J.'s case. And I did some of the body language on O.J.'s case. And then from there, we went on, it was John and Patsy Ramsey's case. I did the body language there. Then we went on to Scott Peterson. You remember Scott Peterson? Then from there, went to Chicago, and there was a young man named Drew Peterson, kept saying his wives were drowning in tubs. And then went on to Jorn Vandersloot. Remember Jorn Vandersloot? Went on to Casey Anthony. I did Casey Anthony's body language. I didn't pick that jury, but I did do her body language. And even last year in Colorado, I think it was in November, a man said that his wife and 2 children just deserted and left. You saw that interview. Did you look at his body language as he said that? So he was kind of holding on to himself right here and swinging. Normally when people lie, they go side to side. When they're telling the truth, they usually go back, front and back. But you remember the young man who said that his wife had left and then they found out? So when you see these people who come on television and you watch their body language somewhat and you know some things about body language, it makes a whole big difference in how you're really reacting to them. Then I'll show you what happens with someone's hands so that you are aware of what's going on. Never do the lying gestures though when you're in a meeting with someone, but I want you to watch for them. I think that you're really good at this because you're listening so well and you're giving me great eye contact, by the way. Thank you for that. And women are pretty astute about figuring people out. So I'm going to let you try to catch me in a lie. This is what I'm going to do because you know a little bit so far. I'm going to tell you 4 things, and I'll call them A, B, C, and D. And I'll make sure that 3 are true, but I'll make sure that 1 is a lie. All of you know the sound of my voice because you're kind of into my voice now. I will make sure that on my lie, my voice gets a lot higher. So keenly tune into sound as I give you A, B, C, and D. A lot of you can see my eyes. I will make sure that my eyes weird out during my lie. And then I'll put my hand differently for each one. So you have 4 sentences, but 3 are true and 1 is a lie. So here comes A, because I just saw him on television this morning. A goes this way. I'll put my right thumb up for A and say this. I once kissed Mario Lopez. I think you might know Mario. He's on every television in every hotel. I once kissed him. For B, I'm going to do this. I'll just put my hands here, but I'll turn around so you can see my face. And for B, I'll say this. My college grade point average for my master's degree was a 3.8. For C, I'm going to try this. And I'll take my hands in front of me and just do this. I was once selected crawfish queen in Southwest Louisiana. And then for D, let me do this. Let me take my hands and point them downward and say this. I wrote an article on Tiger Woods' body language for Golf magazine. Will not tell you just yet which one is a lie, but now I can feel the intensity of your eyes. You're kind of scaring me right now. You're looking at me so hard. You know you're making me nervous. You're looking at me so hard. But that's how you will get when you're watching people. You're going to get, and something gave that lie away. And I never want you to be lied to again, so I'll teach you how to catch it. Before I even teach you how to catch it and what was the giveaway, let's see who would have gotten it correct. With a show of hands, who thinks maybe that it was A? Anybody thinks it's A, kissing Mario? And that's a good choice. I see your hands. That's a great choice. Anybody thinks it's B? B was college grade point average. I see your hand because numbers are easy to lie about. What about C, crawfish queen? They don't think I was a crawfish queen. I see your little hands right there. And then what about D, writing the article on Tiger? And I see a couple of hands there. So in other words, just think in this room, we have someone fooled on each one. And some of you have no earthly idea. So let me show you how to catch it. Let me do this. I'll give you 3 gestures of dishonesty, and then I'll give you 2 gestures of honesty. And the handout that I give you is going to have that we'll send you has a lot more, but these are 3 they let us tell outside the courtroom. This is what we have found from years and years of doing this research is this. When someone is highly uncomfortable with what they're telling you and probably lying to you, they have a huge tendency to gesture with their left hand, their left index finger, and while the person lies, they quickly and nervously will start touching something on the left side of their face. I'll show you what the liar touches in a second, but let's clarify one big fact. It is never that our left-handed friends lie more than our right-handed friends. The only reason the left hand is used, and all of you can help me with this, why did I say the left hand would be used for dishonesty? It's controlled by what? This. And look, this side can make up a story. When you tell a lie, it is coming from right here, and then because of that, the motor skill is with this hand. So watch dishonesty gesture number 1. Someone is getting ready to tell you something, and they know that part of this is not true. The first thing they do, they're going to sit back, they'll take their left index finger, and while they lie, they begin to rub up and down the left side of their nose. A liar does this. He goes up twice, looks down, and then comes out twice this way. Usually goes up twice and then out twice. Ever had someone say to you, yeah, you look real good, and you believe them? This is a huge dishonesty gesture. I'm a teacher, and I never want to teach you something and not validate that fact, so I'm going to do it in slow motion, and I want you to tell me exactly what happened. So I took my hand, and I went twice this way, and then this is where the action is really going on. What's going on right now? Right now, I'm covering my mouth, and I'm shoving up on the nose. A liar brings a hand here to distract from you the information out of their mouth. So they're trying to distract you with fingernails they wear, watches that they wear, rings that people wear. If you're in a conversation and someone has a pretty ring and they keep doing this and doing this, after a while you're not paying attention, thinking, wow, that's a good looking ring. We tend to bring something here to distract from another what's coming out of the mouth. This tiny, tiny motion here, it is called manipulator. There is no sense that someone excessively touches their face when they're talking with you. People touch their face a lot because they're really, really uncomfortable with what they are saying to you. I know that you watch newscasters deliver news in your city. Think about newscasters. If you watch them carefully, they never, ever, ever touch their faces. They're trained. You never see a newscaster lady touch her hair. You'll never see a newscaster guy touch his tie because they're trained to get you to believe their story. They just talk with you. The more that someone has to touch of the face when they're telling you something, the less likely it is that they're comfortable with what it is that they're saying. And think of where this comes from, this gesture here. When you were a child and you said something you should not have said, you tried to stuff it back in. You're still trying to stuff it back in, but oops, you're just a bit more sophisticated here. And the reason that a liar touches his nose, and this is a physiological effect, every time you lie, you get a tingling sensation in your nose, and because of it, you end up rubbing. I know you never touch your nose again with your left hand. If ever your nose itches on that side, you better just come around this way and kind of rub it here. And one thing I can even caution you with, let's say you're not talking and you're listening to someone else speak, and while they're speaking, you're sitting there and you're doing the lying gesture. If you're doing it while someone else is talking, it means that you feel you are being lied to. It's as if you're thinking, oh, this stuff stinks, I don't believe a word of it. And think of where really this comes from, the Pinocchio effect. I know that you'll never forget that one. Let me teach you lying gesture 2 and lying gesture 3. All major dishonesty, it's the left hand, comes back to the left side of the face. Lying gesture number 2 is simply this. It has to be left hand and has to be left eye, though. Excessive tugging of the left eye does give a message that says, do not see very clearly what I'm saying because I'm not being fully truthful with you. And to really catch someone when they're being deceptive and they touch their eye, when they're lying and they're touching the eye, they will use words that have to do with sight. So they'll say, yeah, that looks real good. And they most of the time they're just fibbing. Because watch the third one. Again, the left hand comes back to the left side of the face, and now it is this. And I know you've seen people have conversations with you doing this. There is no sense that someone does this. They're doing this so that you look here and that you do not look here. And the reason that they touch the ear and the way that you will catch them is that when they lie and they touch their ear, their descriptive words have to do with hearing. So they may pull and say, yeah, that sounds real good, and most of the time they're not telling you the exact truth. Now, you know why someone does this, because they want to push the information back in the mouth. But why would someone touch his eye and someone right next to him touch his ear when he's being deceptive? These two touches go back to that person's preferred method of learning. In this room, I've been watching your little eyes, and I noticed that some of you in here, what we call in education, we would say, that's a visual child. We'd say, oh, this child needs to see something for it to sink in here. I notice that some of you in here are visual learners. I notice that some of you in here are audio learners. You just hear it and it sinks in here. If you are a visual learner and you're saying something that makes you uncomfortable, to soothe yourself, you will go right to the area that brings you the most information and you will touch it. If you're an audio learner and you're saying something that makes you uncomfortable, you will go right to the area that brings you the most information and you will end up touching it. I'm going to help you right now figure out if you are visual or you're audio. It's a quick experiment called chinners and cheekers. Just take your right hand and touch your right cheek. And then that way you figure out if you're visual or audio. And I'll either have you touch your cheek or your chin, and I won't even look at you so that you're not uncomfortable. I'll look straight ahead. It goes pretty fast, so I need you with me. Let's touch our cheek, our chin, our cheek, our chin, our cheek, our chin, our chin, our chin, our cheek, our cheek, our chin, our cheek, our chin. Our chin, stop. Stay the way you landed. Either way you landed is perfectly okay because that's how you understand you. If you ended up where I ended up, that means your little eyes never left me. You were just doing what I was doing, so you're called a visual learner. If you ended up where I said you're focusing on what you hear, so you're called an audio learner. Look, if you're still doing this right now, I'm highly concerned about you. But now, does that help you understand you a bit more? And so all of these gestures that have to do with the left hand, and there are many, many more, but your handout's gonna give you some of those, but I know you can have fun with this one, and you can have fun with this one, and you can have fun with this one. Let me give you 2 honesty gestures, one for guys, one for girls. Honesty is done with the right hand, and the most honest and sincere gesture, and you're gonna know this one already, is actually when you do this. I know that you've done this and maybe said to someone, I really enjoyed meeting you or I had a good time with you. This is the most sincere and the most honest gesture, and it is similar to the pledge, but be careful, because in the pledge, our fingers are together. In the honesty, our fingers are wide, wide apart. Just like in the beginning when you said a promise to tell the truth, the whole truth. So this is the honesty gesture here when a man wants to be believed. Sweet men. You know what men always think they need to do? Men always think they need to show us their palms. Men are like, I didn't go there. I have been here all night, baby. So guys, you don't have to do this. Just go like you look good in that dress. I've been here all night. Just keep putting that right hand to your heart and we'll believe you each time. But you know what happens when I work with an audience and then later on I see them in the audience in the hallway and they kind of get nervous around me? They're doing all of the gestures at the same time. They're like, yeah. It's gonna happen to you, but now it's kind of making sense. Right-handed gestures associated with honesty, left-handed gestures because they're associated with this side of the brain, or more so with dishonesty. Out of my 4, my lie was C. I was never crawfish queen, but I've eaten a ton of crawfish in my life. Show me who got it right. Show me your hands. I see you there. Because in A was with Mario. Look, thumb displays are signs of proudness. Because you might see someone do this. You might see an executive sit there like this. You know, whenever time you see a thumb display, it's proudness. If it's done close to the body, away from the body, it's vulgar. So you got to do it here. So you got to make sure it's here. So my A was true. My B was also true, and that's college, grade point average. And look what I did. I stood this way. This is kind of military, right? And I'm sure you noticed this, and as a speaker, we're trained this way. It's not real ladylike, but my feet stayed exactly shoulder width apart while I'm speaking, only because we're trained that when we need to speak, we need to establish a substance and stability for ourselves and then talk. Because if I would speak with you for an hour, you know, and I would go from hip to hip, that gets too wishy-washy. Sometimes you just got to stand there. And another secret that speakers know is that you think clearer when your weight is evenly distributed between your 2 feet. So that's why, so if ever you're doing a speech and you kind of get lost, just stop and actually put your weight between the 2 feet. It's going to kind of bring you back to where you need to be in your talk. Because as a speaker, all these thoughts go in our head at the same time. But if we're grounded, that kind of helps us as we're talking. And then for the lie, I did this. Remember I said I was selected crawfish queen? I want you to watch adults who do excessive finger crossing, because all these finger crossings that people do, you can count but not cross. That goes back to when you were a kid and you said something you should not have said, and then you just kind of put your fingers together. It's never okay either to point. A point is a threat. When people do this to you, that is a threat. Do not let them do that to you. It's better that someone points with the entire hand, you know, like they're doing at this hotel. They'll say it's in that direction. And then lastly, I said I wrote the article on Tiger, and that's true. I took 16 different positions that Tiger takes on the golf course. Let's make sure we put on the golf course and analyze those in Golf Magazine. Are you glad I said on the golf course? You looked at me kind of strange when I said that. I want to talk about the sock puller I saw last night. I want to watch my time. My time is just about up. And so I'm going to talk about the sock puller because I wrote a book on lovers' body language. Isn't that interesting? Signs that maybe men do or women do that say, ooh, this person looks good. So I will treat you to some of that and give you a few gestures that a guy does or that a girl does when they're out somewhere. And in my books, and I have my books here, but these are the 5 books that I wrote. And the first one is this one. It's Let Me See Your Body Talk. That's body language job interview, body language presentation skills. My second book is Judge the Jury. It's everything we do in the courtroom. So my handwriting analysis chapters are in here, and my facial analysis chapters are in here. But I did a book on lovers called Free Way of Love, signs that men and women do. And I do this one with Steve Harvey. I don't know if you've ever seen me on Steve's show, but he is the wildest, craziest man I know up to date. We do this book together. My 4th book is probably best for you, and it's strictly business body language. This is just filled with negotiation, nonverbal. But I think the great thing about book number 4, I filled it with pictures. It took me 4 books to write in body language to figure out I needed to put a lot of pictures. So this one has pictures of every conceivable sitting, standing position you can think of. Then my last book is titled Poker Face, and it's the body language of poker players. Not that any of you are poker players, but I decided that I would write a book on that. But I'm gonna do some love, Freeway of Love. Think of the name of that book. You've heard that old song on the Freeway of Love in my pink Cadillac. Have you ever heard that? So when I wrote the book, that was my intent. I wanted this reader to go through the freeway of love as they read it. So chapter 1, you just see someone who looks good across the room. Now chapter 2, you're looking at them, and now they catch you looking at them. So there's a whole eye protocol in this love stuff. And then chapter 3, maybe you got brave, and you're gonna walk towards that person. So since I had named the book a song, I thought I'll just name every chapter in the book a song. So chapter 1 in that book, it's Let's Get It On by Marvin Gaye. And chapter 2 is about eyes, so I titled it The Look of Love. It was an old song by Sergio Mendez. Chapter 3, they're getting closer to each other. I use Roberta Flack's The Closer I Get to You. Chapter 4, they've made contact. I titled it I Want a Man with the Slow Hand. It just goes downhill from there. I gotta stop right there. There's 11 chapters, so it gets kind of crazy. Things like Love Should Have Brought You Home Last Night. But I did do a chapter in that book on lying between lovers, and I titled it Smooth Operator by Sade. And what I did in chapter 7 is I listed the 101 most often told lies that lovers tell each other when they begin to date. Look, I listed 101 lies, but I bet y'all all know what's lie number 1. It's nothing bad, just a little bitty first lie. What's the very first lie when a couple dates, they tell each other? What do you think? Job is number 5, age is number 6. Lie number 2 is I love you. Lie number 10 is I have never done this kind of thing before. What do you think is 1? Come on. It's I'll call you. Lie number 1 is I'll call you. Because we'll say, can I see you Saturday night? But now you catch him because they'll go, yeah, baby, I'll call you. You catch him like that. So I'll give you 2 or 3 gestures that ladies do and that men do. You know what is the number 1 male courtship gesture? If a man is interested in you and he does not know how to tell you that he's interested in you, but he wants to tell you, you know what's the very first thing he does? He will always, always in your presence lift up his socks. Sock pulling is the number 1. Ladies, if you see a guy who you like and is pulling up his socks, just go to him and say, I know it's me, baby, get over here. Or guys, if you pull up your socks, you might want to say, who's in this room that I might like? It's the number 1. And you know what's so precious about guys? Sometimes guys will just kind of nonchalantly lift a sock. Anytime they touch that sock, something you're doing is making them really nervous. And think of where that originated, because you may hear one young man say to another, he'll say, you need to see this girl, she will knock your socks off. You will never look at sock pulling like you used to look. You'll be like, oh, he's pulling. Let me give you 2 or 3 for each. For a man, this one I saw even last night, and this is the one that a lot of you ladies will already know. Maybe a guy and a girl are talking and the guy's holding onto a Coca-Cola can. What do guys do if they have a can in their hand and you're making them nervous? What do they kind of squeeze it? They let it go, they squeeze it. Every time they squeeze that can, they're thinking to themselves, I'd like to squeeze you, baby. So you might want to watch the cans of the guys that you see. And another cute thing that men do, men preen, P-R-E-E-N. We do it too, but men do it in a really smooth way. You know, the guy will come into the room and he'll kind of do this with his hair. And we like you to do it, guys. Then they get a little bit more nervous around you, so they'll fix their tie. Fixing the tie is a courtship gesture. They may even pull on their jacket. You know how people pull on their jackets this way? That is a courtship gesture too. And then sometimes you see them do this, tuck their fingers here, maybe put their fingers towards the zipper area. Ladies, if you see a guy like this, do not go near that guy, okay? He's getting ready for some serious, serious courtship. And then let me give you some gestures that ladies do. You wouldn't want to come join me on stage, would you, my friend? My friend from 2 years ago, right there. Come to see me. I know this man. I'm going to role play for you a couple. Hey, Adrian, could I get a couple of chairs for he and I? Can I get some? Because I know you, and he's so nice, but he's going to let me do it. I know his wife's going to let him come in and do this with me too. How are you doing? It's good to see you. First name again. Dwayne, good to meet you, darling. I'm going to sit you here, and thank you, Adrian. Thank you, we're good. I'll sit you here. So, here. How you doing? Look at him. What are you doing? Look what you're doing. Oh, a little bit of confidence. That's good. That's always good. So oftentimes, don't you see couples at places and you think, oh, they really look like they like each other? I'm going to show you how to tell if they really like each other or they're pretending to like each other. So we're going to just pretend that we're a single couple. You're single for a minute. Isn't that wonderful, just for a few minutes? And we went to this party. And I saw you and I said, because I saw you, I recognized you from a few years ago. And I said, well, he looks really nice. Maybe you said she's okay too. So you asked me to dance. We did a little slow dance. And then we got tired of dancing, so we're just going to sit on this little couch. So we'll do a couple of scenes because I want you to see the difference in how couples sit who are pretending to like each other and those who are really into each other. So for scene 1, can you cross your leg? Oh, look. That's okay. He's already in scene 2. That's scene 2. So for scene 1, let's cross our legs opposite. Yeah. Okay? And, oh, that looks good. Don't do that, because I know what that means. Okay, but no, let's cross our arms like this for scene 1. Cross your arms like this, and we'll just lean our shoulders against each other, because you like me, because we danced. And so we're going to sit right here for a few minutes and just have a conversation, and I'll get us going, and you just pipe in whenever you want, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Man, you're a good dancer.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
You
that.
like that?
I enjoy dancing with you.
I like the way you held me. You were good at that, huh?
Yeah,
I see you give me a little eyebrow flash. That's kind of nice. Yeah. Are you here by yourself?
Actually,
yes.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Me too. So maybe we could dance some more?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What made you ask me to dance? I mean, what do you think it was? What do you think?
The way you look.
Oh, look at
I saw you from across the room.
Saw me from across the room. Let me stop scene 1 before we get too carried away. Like we say in Texas, this is not his first rodeo, is it, huh? But think about it and just stay this way for a minute. If you saw a couple like this, come on, what's going on with our body language? Our mouths are saying yes, yes, but our bodies are saying no, no. Because this says, lady, I don't even care what you're saying. I want to get back to my chair. And then the big thing you start noticing is how couples are crossed. I crossed us opposite. He's crossed this way and I'm crossed this way. When couples are crossed opposite of each other, there is so much disassociation that they're not even on the same wavelength. So let's try a scene 2. We'll just kind of cross towards, and you can put that arm here because I know you want to with that pretty pink shirt. And you can cross your leg to me if you want. Same couple, same party. We had fun, huh?
Yes, we did.
I know, I'm glad you asked. I wasn't going to ask you to dance if you wouldn't have asked me to dance. I would have.
Would you?
Yeah, I would have, because you look like you're fun. You were keeping time to the music. So I figured you approached me. Look, now he's getting into me.
Got a little bit of rhythm.
He got a little bit of rhythm. He's got a little bit of, I know that you do. Okay, let me end scene 2, because if you saw a couple like that, he's really cute too, though. But if you saw a couple like this, you wouldn't even go near them, but like into each other, kind of guarding themselves away. But look how it is, and look at his nice socks, girl. Look at this, girl. So when legs are crossed facing each other, it almost locks the couple in. They don't have to touch, but they cross, and so it says, we are a couple, and get out of our business. So that's why you see couples sit this way. We're gonna do a scene 3, because I think that they will recognize this. We'll put our backs a little bit to each other, just angle. If you angle towards this way, and I'll angle here. And we'll just kind of lean against each other and pretend you're reading a book. Yeah, that's good. And I'm just looking at my fingernails. And those of you in the audience, tell me what kind of people sit this way. Married people sit like this. But you know what? It's a wonderful way to see a couple seated, because when a couple has a healthy relationship, they do not have to be in each other's face, but they kind of touch. So she can look at her hands and say, but I can feel he's right there. And he could look at his book and say, I can feel that Jan's right there. If you sit with your spouse like this, it's a very good, healthy, contented relationship. When people are insecure with each other, they're in each other's face. So it's this kind of face. When they're insecure, they're like this, like, do you love me? You gotta love me. You love me? Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm working on it.
He's working on it. So with him up here, of course you do. Yeah, look, of course you do, Jan, yeah.
But she was holding the left hand.
I was on the, you couldn't do it like that. So with him up here, let me give you a few gestures that ladies would do that say, I think he's really nice looking. And I'll just push back just a second, but you know, men always think, oh, she touched her hair, maybe she's into me. We do touch our hair, but that's not the first thing we do. We do 3 things before we even touch our hair. The very first thing a lady does, a lady will always cross her leg towards the person she thinks is most attractive. Do not start looking at the table at your seat, Mace, okay? But If we like you, we're going to cross towards you. We'll always cross towards you. We like you. Then to let you know that you need to talk with us, we will start this kind of thing, like a slow, slow kick. You know, it has to be slow because it's like, yeah, you look good. You never want to see a fast kick is an impatience kick, so it has to be kind of slow. And then the biggest gesture that a lady does that's equivalent to the male gesture is when the lady begins to dangle her shoe. Dangling of the shoe, women dangle their shoes, men pull up their socks. Goes back to the Cinderella effect. The beginning of time with wedding cars, it was shoes hung behind wedding cars years and years ago. Now they hang cans and everything else. So feet play a big, big part in this whole courtship. In the book, too, I put oh, look at him go. I put a chapter on men's shoes and ladies' shoes. You can look at someone's shoes, and it's going to tell you what kind of boyfriend or girlfriend they would make for you. That's how important the feet are. Because have your mother ever said, you look at their shoes before you tell them yes, maybe for a date? The shoes can tell a lot, like he's kind of wearing some loafers. I know what that means. I know what that means. So then after she's done all this, then she'll go and then she'll touch the hair. And the more that we get into the hair, the more we into you. So ladies, though, now that you know that touching your hair is a courtship gesture, you cannot touch your hair excessively during a serious business meeting because it will undermine everything you've laid down. Men use their hair too. Because ladies, if you're driving and you pass up a guy and he thinks you're nice looking, you look in the rearview mirror, what's he doing? He's been busy slicking is what it is. we have this saying in Louisiana, we say men who do not have hair in the front, oh, those are thinkers. And men who do not have hair in the back, those are lovers. And men who do not have hair anywhere, they just think that they are lovers. So I'm giving you that. Give him a hand, please. Thank you, my darling. I'll see you. You can leave them there. It's okay. So I'm going to go through the questions from the very end, from the very beginning, and my time I know is up. But one was about the change in the pockets, and then one was this. Remember I said when a guy fools with the change in his pockets, it means he's seriously concerned about money? That is true. It's not that it's negative, it just means though he thinks too much about his financial situation. Either he has a lot of money, wants to know where the next big bucks come from, or hardly have any coins and concerned where the next pennies come from. Everything in body language goes back to basic knowledge. At Christmas time, how does the Salvation Army let you know they need money? What do? They shake coins? That's kind of the same thing that they're doing. So when I coach men, I say you cannot fool with those change that much because it's too distracting. And then this. Remember, this was number one? And I said if a guy does this and he's listening, it means he's seriously contemplating. That is true. This is a really, really good evaluation. When a guy does this, it's like he's thinking, wow, how much of this stuff should I believe in? Men evaluate this way, and ladies typically put a finger up and kind of evaluate this way. This is called critically evaluating. This is called boredom. This is critically evaluating. You know what's so interesting about watching you watch me, which is a delightful thing for a speaker to see in the morning? Look, just freeze your head, just like your head is right now, just freeze it. And I'll tell you what I'm seeing. Slight tilts of heads show interest. I do not know who's been teaching you people how to tilt, but look, you have some good tilts. When someone's not interested in something, they head straight up and down like, when is this thing gonna be over? But, if you're into it, you're like, oh, that's kind of good, that's kind of cool. So just knowing the head tilt, this week you're in a meeting with someone, you don't like them, but maybe you want them to think you like them, just tilt. Don't do too fast, because they'll catch on to what was going on. So I just kind of wanted to whet your whole appetite about this field of body language. I hope that you got some awareness and a basic for it, but I would challenge you to study it some more, even put your TV off, the sound off, and watch TV. You could almost tell what people are doing or saying without even the TV going on there. My website is my name, is just janhargrave.com, and you can get books. I have an Amazon store called Jan Hargrave and Associates, and I do have a table of books here, so if you need some. But to my friends at WICERS, what can I say? I love you, girl. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.